The morning sun rose over New Eden like any other day. Children played in the streets while their parents worked in the fields. The colony had been peaceful for 15 years. 50,000 humans called this place home now. They had built schools, hospitals, and parks. They grew food and raised families. Nobody expected what was coming. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of Defense Station Alpha. The station floated in orbit around the planet. Sarah was 35 years old and had been protecting New Eden for 5 years. She loved watching the sunrise over the colony's main city. The glass towers caught the light and sparkled like diamonds. "Beautiful morning, Commander," said Lieutenant Torres as he joined her at the window. He was young, maybe 25, with bright eyes full of hope. "Every morning is beautiful here," Sarah replied. She meant it. New Eden was paradise compared to the crowded cities of Earth. Here, people had space to breathe. Children could run free without fear. The peace did not last long. At exactly 0800 hours, the sensors went crazy. Red lights flashed everywhere. Alarms screamed through the station. Sarah ran to the command center as fast as she could. What she saw on the screens made her blood turn cold. Ships. Hundreds of alien ships dropping out of hyperspace. They were huge and dark, shaped like daggers pointing at the planet. Sarah had never seen anything like them before. The ships moved in perfect formation surrounding New Eden like hungry wolves. "Ma'am, we're getting a transmission," Torres called out. His voice shook with fear. "Put it on screen," Sarah ordered. The face that appeared was not human. It had gray skin and 4 eyes that glowed red. Its mouth was full of sharp teeth. When it spoke, its voice sounded like grinding metal. "Humans of New Eden," the alien said. "I am War Commander Zektar of the Zephyrian hegemony. You have spread like a disease across our galaxy. You build your colonies on worlds that belong to us. Today this ends. We will cleanse this world of your presence. Consider this a warning to all your kind." The transmission cut off. Sarah stared at the black screen, her mind racing. 50,000 people lived on New Eden. Half of them were children. She had to protect them. "All defense platforms power up weapons," Sarah shouted into her communicator. "Launch all fighters. Get me a line to the planet's emergency services. We need to start evacuations now." But even as she gave the orders, Sarah knew it was hopeless. New Eden's defenses were designed to fight pirates and smugglers. These alien ships were warships, real warships with enough firepower to crack a planet. The attack began without warning. Beams of purple energy shot down from the alien fleet. They hit the colony's main city first. Where the beams touched, everything turned to glass. Buildings, streets, people, all became smooth, clear glass in seconds. The screams lasted only a moment before they were cut off forever. "Dear God," Torres whispered. His face was white with shock. More beams fell like deadly rain. The hospital where Dr. Martinez had delivered over 1,000 babies turned to glass. The school where children learned to read became a crystal monument to death. The park where families had picnics on Sunday afternoons was now a field of frozen screams. Sarah's defense stations fired back. Their lasers and missiles struck the alien ships but did no damage. The enemy vessels had shields that absorbed every shot. Meanwhile, more purple beams fell from the sky. "Commander, we're getting evacuation requests from all sectors," reported Sergeant Kim. "People are trying to get to the spaceports." "Tell them to hurry," Sarah said. But she could see it was already too late for most of them. The spaceports were among the first targets. The aliens knew exactly what they were doing. They hit the escape roads first, then the cities, then the farms. They wanted to make sure nobody got away alive. Some evacuation ships did manage to launch. Sarah watched them on her screens, praying they would make it to safety. But the alien fighters were waiting. They hunted down each escape pod like hawks chasing mice. The small ships exploded one by one in bright flashes of light. Each flash meant dozens more families would never see another sunrise. "Ma'am, the Henderson ship just launched from Bay 7, Torres reported. Sarah knew the Henderson family. Tom Henderson ran the colony's main farm. His wife Jane taught at the elementary school. They had 3 little girls. Sarah watched their ship climb toward the stars. For a moment, she thought they might make it. Then 2 alien fighters swooped down like vultures. Purple beams cut the Henderson ship in half. The explosion was very small from this distance, just a tiny flash of light. But Sarah knew that flash had just killed 5 people she cared about. "Commander," Kim called out. "Direct hit on the residential districts. Sections 4 through 12 are gone." Gone. Such a simple word for something so horrible. 40,000 people lived in those sections. They had homes and dreams and plans for tomorrow. Now they were all glass sculptures in a graveyard. The bombardment continued for 6 hours. 6 hours of death falling from the sky. Sarah and her crew could only watch as their world died below them. Every now and then they tried to fight back. Their weapons did nothing against the alien shields. But they kept trying anyway. It was all they could do. Dr. Williams at the research station tried to evacuate his people through the back tunnels. Sarah watched his heat signature on the sensors, moving through the underground passages with 30 other scientists. They almost made it to the hidden shuttle bay. Almost. But the aliens had sensors too. A single purple beam punched through 50 feet of rock and turned the tunnel into a glass tube. Dr. Williams and his team were trapped forever in crystal coffins. The colony's militia tried to fight. Captain Rodriguez led 100 brave volunteers against the alien landing forces. They had rifles and determination. The aliens had plasma cannons and armor that could stop tank rounds. The fight lasted 3 minutes. Rodriguez's final message was short. Tell Earth what happened here. Make them pay. Sarah saved that message. She would make sure Earth heard it. By noon, the main city was gone. By evening, the farms were burning. By midnight, the oceans were boiling from orbital bombardment. The aliens used weapons Sarah had never seen before. Some beams turned everything to glass. Others made matter simply disappear. The worst ones seemed to tear reality itself apart, leaving holes in space that hurt to look at. Commander, I'm picking up survivors in Shelter Complex 9, Torres reported. His voice was hoarse from hours of horror. Sarah looked at the screens. Shelter 9 was deep underground, built to survive asteroid impacts. 200 people were hiding there, mostly children from the school field trips. They had been visiting the old mining tunnels when the attack began. Now they were the only ones left alive on the entire planet. Can we get to them? Sarah asked. Torres shook his head. The alien ships have the whole area covered. Any rescue attempt would be suicide. Sarah closed her eyes and made the hardest decision of her life. She could try to save 200 people and probably fail. Or she could make sure their deaths meant something. She could make sure Earth learned the truth about what happened here. Start recording everything, she ordered. Every sensor reading, every communication, every second of video. Pack it all into the emergency beacon. Ma'am? Torres looked confused. Earth needs to know what happened here, Sarah explained. They need to see what these monsters did. They need to understand what we're fighting. The data files filled the beacon's memory banks. Videos of children turning to glass. Audio recordings of families screaming for help. Sensor data showing the aliens' weapons and ship designs. Everything that might help Earth fight back someday. The alien ships finished their work just before dawn. New Eden was dead. The continents were cracked glass plains. The oceans were radioactive steam. The atmosphere was poison. Nothing could live there anymore. War Commander Zektar appeared on Sarah's screen one last time. Behind him, she could see other aliens celebrating their victory. They were laughing at what they had done. Human Commander, Zektar said with his horrible metal voice. Your species is weak. You build pretty cities and grow soft. We are strong. We take what we want and kill what opposes us. Tell your Earth leaders this. Stay in your own star system or share New Eden's fate. I'll tell them something else, Sarah replied. Her voice was steady despite her broken heart. I'll tell them that monsters exist. I'll tell them that innocence is no protection against evil. And I'll tell them that 50,000 good people died here today. Zektar's 4 eyes glowed brighter. Your words mean nothing. You humans are insects. We have crushed your hive. Soon we will crush all your hives. Maybe, Sarah said. But insects can sting. The alien commander laughed and cut the transmission. Sarah looked around the command center. Her crew stared at the screen showing their dead world. Torres was crying openly. Kim sat in shock, unable to process what they had seen. They were all that remained of New Eden's 50,000 souls. Launch the beacon, Sarah ordered. The emergency beacon shot away from Defense Station Alpha at maximum speed. It would reach Earth in 3 weeks. It carried the complete record of New Eden's last day. Every death was documented. Every horror was preserved. Earth would know exactly what had happened here. What do we do now, Commander? Torres asked. Sarah looked at the dead planet below. Somewhere down there, Shelter Complex 9 was probably running out of air. 200 people were dying slowly in the dark, the last residents of New Eden. There was nothing she could do to save them. Now we go home, Sarah said quietly. We tell Earth what we saw here. We make sure this never happens again. The defense station's engines fired up. As they left New Eden's orbit, Sarah took one last look at the planet that had been paradise. Now it was a glass tomb, beautiful and terrible in the starlight. The aliens had turned an entire world into a work of art made from death. Sarah made herself a promise as they jumped to hyperspace. Someday, somehow, New Eden would be avenged. The monsters who did this would pay for every child they had murdered, for every dream they had turned to glass, for every tomorrow they had stolen. Earth would learn what happened at New Eden, and Earth would remember. The beacon raced through space, carrying its message of horror toward humanity's home. Behind it, an empty world turned slowly in the void, waiting for justice that might never come. But Sarah Chen believed it would come. Humans were many things, soft perhaps and sometimes foolish. But they were also capable of terrible fury when their children were threatened. The aliens had just taught humanity a new kind of hatred. War Commander Zektar thought he had won a great victory. He thought he had taught the humans their place in the galaxy. He was wrong about that. He had done something much more dangerous. He had given humanity a reason to change. The quantum relay station on Mars picked up the emergency beacon 21 days after New Eden died. The automated systems processed the signal and sent it to Earth immediately. Within hours, the beacon's message reached the unified Earth government headquarters in Geneva. President Catherine Walsh was in a budget meeting when her secretary burst through the door. Margaret Santos had worked for Catherine for 10 years and had never interrupted a meeting before. The look on her face made Catherine's blood run cold. "Ma'am, we have an emergency transmission from New Eden Colony," Margaret said. Her voice shook like leaves in a storm. Catherine stood up immediately. "What kind of emergency?" Margaret could not speak. She just handed Catherine a tablet with the beacon's summary. Catherine read the first line and felt the world tilt around her. Colony status, total loss, population 0 survivors. "Cause alien attack. Get me Admiral Stone on the secure line," Catherine ordered. "Clear my schedule for the rest of the day. And, Margaret, not a word of this to anyone until we know more." Admiral Marcus Stone commanded Earth's Space Defense Force. He was 60 years old with gray hair and sad eyes. He had fought in 3 wars and thought he had seen everything terrible that could happen. He was wrong. Catherine met him in the secure briefing room deep under the government building. Neither of them spoke as they watched Commander Chen's final transmission. The recording was 12 hours long. 12 hours of humanity's children dying while their parents watched helplessly. When it finished, the room was silent for a long time. "How many?" Catherine asked quietly. 50,000 confirmed dead," Stone replied. His voice sounded very old. 15,000 of them were under 18 years old. Catherine closed her eyes. 15,000 children. She had grandchildren herself. Little Sarah was only 8 years old. Tommy had just learned to walk. The thought of them turning to glass made her physically sick. "What do we know about these aliens?" she asked. Stone activated a holographic display. Images of the Zephyrian ships appeared in the air between them. They call themselves the Zephyrian hegemony. According to our xenology experts, we've had limited contact with them before. They're an old species, at least 5,000 years more advanced than us. They control maybe 60 star systems. Why did they attack New Eden? According to their transmission, they consider us a threat. They say humans are spreading too fast through space. They want us to stay in our own solar system. Catherine stared at the alien ship designs. They looked like weapons, all sharp angles and aggressive lines. Everything about them screamed violence and hatred. "What are our military options?" she asked. Stone was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his words were careful and painful. "Ma'am, if these aliens wanted to attack Earth directly, they could probably destroy our entire civilization in a few days. Our best warships are toys compared to what they used at New Eden." Catherine felt a chill of fear. "Are you saying we can't fight back?" "I'm saying we can't fight back yet," Stone corrected. "But there are things we can do. Projects we've been working on. Technologies we've been developing in secret." He pressed a button on the table. The holographic display changed to show technical diagrams that Catherine didn't understand. Ships and weapons that looked like they came from science fiction movies. "What am I looking at?" she asked. "Project Prometheus," Stone explained. "We've been preparing for this day since we first made contact with hostile aliens 15 years ago. We've been building weapons and ships in secret, training soldiers for a war most people hoped would never come." Catherine studied the designs. They looked powerful, But so had New Eden's defenses. Will it be enough? Stone met her eyes. I don't know. But it's what we have. And, ma'am, there's something else you need to know. The Zephyrians didn't just attack us randomly. They're part of an alliance. 3 other alien species helped plan this attack. The Borthan Empire, the Crystalline Concordat, and the Hive Worlds. Together, they control maybe 200 star systems. The numbers hit Catherine like a physical blow. 200 star systems against humanity's 12 colonies. It was not even close to a fair fight. How long do we have? She asked. Unknown. They might attack again tomorrow, or they might wait to see how we respond to New Eden. But ma'am, we have to assume they'll come for Earth eventually. We're the source of the infection they want to stop. Catherine made her decision. Activate Project Prometheus. Full authorization. Whatever resources you need, you'll have them. Yes, ma'am. But there's one more thing. The people have a right to know what happened at New Eden. We can't keep this secret forever. Catherine nodded slowly. You're right. Schedule a global address for tonight. And Admiral, I want the full recording made public. Every second of it, ma'am. That footage is... It's very difficult to watch. Good, Catherine said coldly. People need to see exactly what these monsters did. They need to understand what we're fighting for. That evening, Catherine stood before the cameras in the presidential press room. Behind her was the flag of Earth, blue and green stripes with a white circle representing unity among all nations. She looked directly into the camera and spoke to 12 billion human souls. My fellow humans, she began. Today I must share news that will break your hearts and test your resolve. 21 days ago, the colony of New Eden was attacked by hostile aliens called the Zephyrian Hegemony. In the space of 12 hours, 50,000 of our brothers and sisters were murdered in cold blood. The reaction was immediate. Around the world, people stopped what they were doing to listen. In London, workers gathered around televisions and pubs. In Tokyo, families huddled together in their homes. In São Paulo, students stood silent in the streets. Catherine continued. I will not lie to you about what happened. This was not a military engagement between equals. This was the systematic slaughter of innocent people. Farmers, teachers, doctors, children, all murdered because they were human. She paused to let that sink in. When she spoke again, her voice was harder. The aliens' message was clear. They consider humanity a disease that must be contained. They want us to abandon our colonies and stay locked in our own solar system forever. They believe we will submit to their demands out of fear. Another pause. Catherine's eyes grew cold as winter stars. They are wrong. The words echoed around the world. In every language, in every home, people heard the same message. Earth would not bow to monsters. In 1 hour, I will release the complete recording of New Eden's final day. I warn you, this footage is difficult to watch. You will see things that will haunt your dreams. But you need to see them. You need to understand what evil looks like when it wears a civilized face. Catherine stepped closer to the camera. To the aliens who did this, you have made a terrible mistake. You thought you were teaching us fear. Instead, you have taught us hatred. You thought you were showing us our weakness. Instead, you have shown us our purpose. You wanted us to retreat to our home system and hide like frightened children. Her voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried more menace than any shout. Instead, you have given us a reason to reach for the stars with weapons in our hands. The address ended. Within minutes, the New Eden recordings were uploaded to every major news network on Earth. The reaction was swift and terrible. In New York, 10,000 people gathered in Times Square. They held candles and photographs of the colonists who had died. Many were crying, but their tears were tears of rage, not sadness. In Moscow, demonstrators surrounded the old UN building carrying signs that read, "Remember New Eden" in 50 different languages. In Mumbai, a mob tried to storm the Zephyrian trade mission. The building was empty. The alien representatives had fled Earth hours after the attack, but the people's anger was real and burning. Dr. James Wright, Earth's leading xenologist, appeared on news programs around the world. He had studied alien species for 20 years and had always advocated for peaceful contact. Now his views had changed completely. We tried to meet them as equals, he said during an interview. We offered trade, cultural exchange, mutual understanding. Their response was genocide. They have shown us their true nature and we must respond accordingly. The interviewer asked what he meant by that. I mean, we must become what they fear, Wright replied. They see us as a disease that spreads through the galaxy. Very well. Let us be a disease, but one that kills only monsters. Admiral Stone watched the global reaction from his command center deep under Cheyenne Mountain. Protests filled every major city. Recruitment centers were flooded with volunteers wanting to join the Space Forces. Factory workers demanded to know how they could help build weapons to fight the aliens. But Stone also saw something else in the crowds. Something that worried him as much as it encouraged him. The protesters weren't just angry. They were transformed. In their eyes was a coldness he recognized from his own mirror. They had the look of people who had seen too much evil to ever be truly peaceful again. His aide, Colonel Morrison, joined him at the observation screens. The people are certainly motivated, sir, Morrison said. Yes, Stone agreed. But I wonder what we're becoming. Look at their faces, Tom. Those aren't the faces of the humans who built New Eden. Those are the faces of something harder, something more dangerous. Morrison was quiet for a moment. Is that necessarily bad, sir? Maybe we needed to become something harder. Stone considered that. Maybe Morrison was right. Maybe humanity's age of innocence had ended the moment those purple beams fell from New Eden's sky. Maybe that was what it took to survive in a galaxy full of monsters. 3 days after Catherine's address, the Zephyrian ambassador requested a meeting with the UN Security Council. Ambassador Borthan had been on Earth for 2 years, supposedly to discuss trade agreements. Everyone knew now that he had really been gathering intelligence about human defenses. The meeting was held in the emergency session chambers. Representatives from every major nation attended, along with Admiral Stone and President Walsh. The atmosphere was toxic with barely controlled hatred. Borthan looked like his war commander, cousin, gray skin, 4 red eyes, teeth designed for tearing meat, but he wore expensive clothes and spoke with the polished words of a diplomat. Somehow that made him even more disgusting. Honored representatives of humanity, Borthan began in his grinding metal voice. I come before you today to express the hegemony's regret for the unfortunate events at New Eden. President Walsh stood up slowly. Regret? Indeed, the alien continued. The action was excessive. War Commander Zektar exceeded his authority. The hegemony does not desire conflict with Earth. Then why did you slaughter 50,000 innocent people? Asked the Russian representative. Borthan's 4 eyes showed no emotion. It was a necessary demonstration. Humans have been expanding through space at an alarming rate. 13 colonies in the past 20 years. This expansion threatens the stability of our region. Our colonies are peaceful, Catherine protested. We've never attacked anyone. We explore and trade and build homes for our families. Yes, the alien agreed. That is precisely the problem. You reproduce quickly and spread like, how do you say, weeds. In time, you will overwhelm the established civilizations of the galaxy. The action at New Eden was meant to encourage more responsible expansion. The room erupted in angry shouts. Representatives from dozens of nations stood up, yelling at the alien in languages he probably couldn't understand. But their meaning was clear enough. Catherine raised her hand for silence. When the room quieted, her voice was ice-cold. Ambassador Borthan, she said carefully, are you seriously suggesting that murdering children was a reasonable response to peaceful colonization? I am suggesting that sometimes harsh lessons are necessary to prevent greater conflicts, the alien replied. The hegemony offers humanity a generous compromise. Abandon your existing colonies and restrict future expansion to your current solar system. In return, we guarantee Earth's safety and are prepared to offer limited trading rights. The silence that followed was more terrible than any shout. Catherine looked around the room at the faces of world leaders. Every one of them showed the same expression, a cold, calculating hatred that had replaced whatever innocence humanity once possessed. I see, Catherine said finally. So your generous offer is that we abandon 12 colonies containing 3 million people, accept permanent imprisonment in our own system, and be grateful that you don't murder us all immediately. You stated crudely, but yes, that is accurate, Borthan confirmed. Catherine nodded slowly. I have an alternate proposal, Ambassador. Oh? Catherine's smile was sharp as a blade. Go home. Tell your war commanders and your alliance partners that humanity rejects your demands completely. Tell them that every colony will be rebuilt and defended. Tell them that we will expand to every corner of the galaxy if we choose to. Vorthak's eyes glowed brighter. That would be most unwise. The hegemony and its allies control 200 systems. You control 12. The mathematics of war are not in your favor. Maybe not, Catherine agreed. But mathematics didn't build New Eden, Ambassador. Love did. Hope did. The dream of something better did. And when you murdered those dreams, you created something new in their place. She stood up, and every human in the room stood with her. You created human beings with nothing left to lose. Vorthak looked around at the faces surrounding him. For the first time since arriving on Earth, he seemed uncertain. This is your final answer? He asked. This is our only answer, Catherine replied. We will not negotiate with child killers. We will not bargain with monsters. We will not accept limits placed on us by species who think genocide is reasonable policy. The alien ambassador gathered his robes and moved toward the door. As he reached it, he turned back one final time. You are making a grave mistake, he said. The galaxy is vast and dangerous. Humanity is young and weak. You cannot hope to stand against powers that have ruled the stars since before your species learned to make fire. Catherine's smile never wavered. Perhaps you're right, Ambassador. Perhaps we are too young and too weak. But you know what we're not? What? We're not the species that picks fights with farmers and children. We're not the cowards who call murder a demonstration. And we're not the fools who think that killing innocents will make their enemies give up hope. Vorthak left without another word. Within hours, he and his entire staff were off-planet and heading back to Zephyrian space. Behind them, they left a world transformed by grief and fury. Admiral Stone activated every part of Project Prometheus that night. In hidden bases around the solar system, construction began on weapons that had existed only in blueprints. In secret laboratories, scientists worked around the clock to turn theoretical physics into practical death. But the real change was in the people themselves. The humans who went to sleep the night before New Eden died were not the same species that woke up afterward. They had been gardeners and teachers and dreamers. Now they were something else. Something harder. Something that thought in terms of total war and absolute victory. The aliens had wanted to teach humanity about fear. Instead, they had taught them about hate. It was a lesson the galaxy would never forget. 2 years after New Eden burned, Admiral Marcus Stone stood on the command bridge of humanity's newest warship. The ship had no name yet. That would come later. For now, it was simply designated Terra 01, the first of its kind, but everyone who worked on it called it by another name, New Eden's Vengeance. The ship was massive beyond anything humanity had ever built before. 3 kilometers long and shaped like a blade, it housed weapons that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. Its hull was made from metamaterials that bent light around them, making the ship nearly invisible. Its engines used dark matter in ways that alien physicists said were impossible. Stone was 62 now, with more gray in his hair and deeper lines around his eyes. The past 2 years had aged him terribly, but his hands were steady and his voice was strong as he spoke to his crew. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced over the ship's communication system, today we begin humanity's answer to New Eden. Today we show the galaxy what humans do to child killers. The crew was 3,000 strong, all volunteers. Many had lost family members at New Eden. Others had simply volunteered because they could not stand the thought of monsters going unpunished. Captain Elena Vasquez, Stone's second-in-command, had lost her brother and his family on the colony. She had not smiled once in 2 years. Behind New Eden's Vengeance floated the rest of Terra Fleet, 2,999 other ships, each one built in secret over the past 24 months. The smallest were destroyer-class vessels with crews of 50. The largest were planet killers that could crack worlds like eggs. Every shipyard in human space had worked on the fleet. Every factory had contributed materials. Every laboratory had developed new weapons. The project had consumed nearly half of Earth's total resources, but nobody complained. The entire human species understood that this was their moment of decision. Dr. Sarah Kim directed the weapons development program from her laboratory on Luna. She had been a peaceful researcher before New Eden, studying ways to use quantum physics to improve agriculture. Now she designed weapons that could tear holes in reality itself. The quantum disruptors are ready for deployment, she reported to Stone over a secure channel. Field tests show they can collapse molecular bonds across an area of 50 square kilometers. Everything in the target zone simply stops existing at the atomic level. Stone studied the technical reports on his screen. The weapons were terrible beyond description, but then so was what had happened to New Eden's children. What about the nanoscale systems? He asked. Those are ready too, Dr. Kim replied. Her voice carried a satisfaction that would have frightened the woman she used to be. The von Neumann machines can consume an entire fleet and use the raw materials to build more weapons. They're programmed to target only alien technology and biology. Human ships and personnel will be completely safe. Stone nodded. Humanity had learned much about alien technology by studying the wreckage at New Eden. They knew the molecular signatures of Zephyrian hull materials. They had analyzed the energy patterns of alien weapons. The nanomachines would know exactly what to destroy. Commander Lisa Park ran the intelligence division. Before New Eden, she had been a diplomat, trying to build peaceful relationships with alien species. Now she managed a network of spies and saboteurs spread across 50 star systems. We have complete intelligence on Zephyrian fleet positions, she reported during the final briefing. Their main battle fleets are distributed across 17 systems. War Commander Zektar himself is stationed at their primary naval base in the Altair system. Stone smiled coldly. Zektar was the monster who had personally ordered the attack on New Eden. Stone had special plans for him. What about their allies? Stone asked. The Borthan Empire has 73 worlds but only 12 major fleet bases. The Crystalline Concordat controls 41 systems, but their ships are concentrated around their homeworld. The Hive worlds are the most spread out. They have colonies in nearly 100 systems, but their technology is the most primitive. Stone studied the tactical displays. 4 alien civilizations against 1 human fleet. On paper, it looked impossible. But humans had advantages the aliens didn't know about. Remember, Stone addressed his senior staff, we're not fighting a traditional war. We're not trying to occupy territory or force surrender. We're delivering justice. Complete absolute justice. Captain Morrison, Stone's aide from Earth, raised his hand. Sir, the quantum communicators are reporting strange readings from the target systems. It's like the aliens are preparing for something big. Stone frowned. What kind of preparations? Fleet movements mostly. Large numbers of ships converging on major population centers. It looks like they're preparing for a massive celebration. Park checked her intelligence reports. Sir, according to our sources, they're planning a galaxy-wide broadcast. The 2nd anniversary of what they call the New Eden demonstration. They want to remind everyone what happens to species that don't obey them. Stone felt anger burn in his chest, like molten metal. The aliens were going to celebrate murdering children. They were going to turn the massacre into a holiday. When is this celebration scheduled? He asked. In 6 days, sir. Every major Zephyrian world is planning simultaneous events. Stone looked around the command bridge. His officers stared back at him with expressions of controlled fury. They all understood what this meant. Change of plans, Stone announced. We don't wait for our original timeline. We hit them during their celebration. We give them a party they'll never forget. The Terra fleet departed human space that night. 3,000 ships moving in perfect formation through dimensions that most species didn't even know existed. Humanity had learned to travel through dark space, the quantum foam that existed between normal matter. Ships moving through dark space were completely invisible to conventional sensors. The fleet moved faster than anything else in the galaxy. Earth's physicists had discovered how to manipulate dark matter itself, creating engines that could cross light years in hours instead of days. The alien celebrations would begin in 6 days. The Terra fleet would arrive in 5. Stone stood on his command bridge as reality blurred around them. Through dark space, he could see ghost images of normal space, shadows of stars and planets and alien ships that had no idea death was coming for them. Sir, Captain Vasquez reported, all task forces are maintaining formation. ETA to first target zone is 4 hours, 37 minutes. Stone nodded. The fleet had divided into 17 separate task forces, each one targeting a different Zephyrian system. But Stone's force was heading for the prize, Altair system, where War Commander Zektar waited with the hegemony's most powerful fleet. As they traveled, Stone thought about the past 2 years. The entire human species had transformed itself into a weapon. Children learned engineering alongside mathematics so they could help build better ships. Farmers developed new crops that could grow in artificial environments, so the fleet could stay supplied during long campaigns. Artists designed psychological warfare programs that would break alien morale. Most importantly, humanity had learned to hate efficiently. Not the wild, passionate hatred that burned out quickly, but the cold, calculating hatred that could plan for years and strike with perfect timing. "Admiral," Communications Officer Chen called out, "we're receiving final intelligence updates from our agents in the target systems." Stone read the reports on his screen. Human spies had infiltrated every major alien world. They had identified key targets, mapped defense networks, and confirmed the locations of high-ranking enemy officers. When the attack began, the aliens would be blind and leaderless within minutes. "Any word from the deep cover agents?" Stone asked. "Yes, sir. Agent Williams confirms that War Commander Zektar will be personally attending the celebration on Altair Prime. He's scheduled to give a speech about the necessity of controlling inferior species." Stone's smile was sharp as a blade. "Perfect. I have some things to say to him, too." The Terra fleet dropped out of dark space at exactly 0800 hours Altair system local time. Stone had timed the arrival perfectly, just as the celebration was beginning on the planet below. Through the main view screen, Stone could see Altair Prime. It was a beautiful world of blue oceans and green continents. Cities of crystal and metal dotted the surface like jewelry. Orbital platforms surrounded the planet, decorated with lights for the festival. Millions of aliens were celebrating their victory over human children. "All ships report status," Stone commanded. "Task Force Alpha ready for engagement," came the first reply. "Task Force Beta in position. Task Force Gamma standing by." One by one, all 17 task forces reported in. 3,000 human warships had appeared simultaneously in 17 different star systems. The alien celebration was about to become their funeral. "Sir," Sensor Officer Torres reported, "enemy fleet deployment exactly as predicted. 67 major warships in orbit around Altair Prime. Their shields are down for the celebration." Stone felt a moment of something that might have been pity. The aliens had made themselves completely vulnerable. They were so confident in their superiority that they couldn't imagine anyone threatening them. That confidence was about to be shattered forever. "Open a channel to all ships," Stone ordered. "This is Admiral Marcus Stone to all Terra Fleet units. Today we deliver justice for New Eden. Today we show the galaxy what happens to species that murder human children. Remember, no mercy, no quarter, no survivors. The only acceptable outcome is complete victory." 3,000 ship captains acknowledged the order. Stone could hear the hunger for revenge in their voices. "Sir," Captain Vasquez said quietly, "once we begin this, there's no going back. We'll be committing genocide ourselves." Stone looked at her steadily. "Elena, they glassed an entire world full of farmers and children. They turned 15,000 kids into crystal sculptures. They celebrated it as a holiday. What would you call that?" Vasquez was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was hard as steel. "I would call it a mistake they're about to regret." Stone nodded. "All ships, begin the attack. Show them what human justice looks like." The first weapons to fire were the quantum disruptors. Invisible beams reached out from the human ships and touched the alien vessels. Where the beams hit, reality simply stopped. Molecular bonds collapsed. Atoms forgot how to hold together. 67 Zephyrian warships dissolved into clouds of fundamental particles. The aliens didn't even have time to send distress signals. But the ships were just the beginning. Stone's real target was the planet below, where millions of aliens were celebrating the massacre of his people. "Deploy the nanomachine swarms," Stone ordered. Tiny canisters launched from the human fleet toward Altair Prime. Each canister contained billions of microscopic machines, each one programmed with the molecular signatures of everything alien. The canisters hit the planet's atmosphere and burst open like deadly flowers. The nanomachines fell like invisible snow across the surface of Altair Prime. They touched the crystal cities and began to feed. Alien technology dissolved as the machines consumed it and used the raw materials to build more weapons. Defense systems, communication networks, power plants. Everything that made Zephyrian civilization possible simply vanished. "Sir," Torres reported with satisfaction. "Planet-wide infrastructure collapse achieved in 17 minutes. The entire civilization is dead in the water." Stone nodded, but he wasn't finished. The infrastructure was just machinery. The aliens who had celebrated murdering children were still alive down there, wondering what had happened to their perfect world. "Initiate gravitational bombardment," Stone commanded. New weapons fired from the human fleet. These were the most terrible weapons humanity had ever created, devices that could manipulate gravity itself. Focused gravitational fields reached down to Altair Prime's surface and began to squeeze. The beautiful crystal cities didn't just collapse, they were crushed into neutronium, compressed until their atoms couldn't exist anymore. Mountains were flattened into perfectly smooth plains. Oceans boiled away under gravitational pressures that shouldn't have been possible. But Stone saved the worst for last. In the planet's capital city, where War Commander Zektar was giving his speech about human inferiority, Stone deployed humanity's most personal weapon. A single quantum disruptor beam, precisely targeted, reached down through the planet's atmosphere and touched the podium where Zektar stood. The War Commander had just enough time to look up at the sky in confusion before the beam erased him from existence, one atom at a time. Stone imagined Zektar's final thoughts. Where did these weapons come from? How did the weak humans become so strong? Why can't we fight back? The answer was simple. They had taught humanity to hate efficiently. Across the galaxy, the other task forces were delivering similar justice. The Borthan Empire's homeworld died under quantum fire. The crystalline Concordate's fleets dissolved into component atoms. The hive worlds burned under gravitational weapons that turned their planets into smooth glass balls. In 6 hours, 4 civilizations that had controlled hundreds of worlds ceased to exist. Not conquered, erased, deleted from the galaxy like files deleted from a computer. Stone watched Altair Prime complete its transformation from a living world to a smooth airless rock. Nothing remained of the aliens who had celebrated murdering children. Nothing remained of their cities, their art, their history, their dreams. "Sir," Communications Officer Chen reported, "we're receiving surrender offers from 47 minor alien species. They're begging us not to attack them." Stone considered that. These were species that had been allied with the Zephyrian hegemony, but hadn't directly participated in the New Eden attack. By the old human standards, they might have deserved mercy, but humanity no longer operated by the old standards. "Send a message to all alien species in the galaxy," Stone ordered. "Tell them that any species that supported or applauded the New Eden massacre will share the fate of their patrons. Tell them that any species that threatens human colonies in the future will be erased from existence. Tell them that the age of alien supremacy is over." The message went out on every communication frequency known to galactic civilization. Within hours, every intelligent species in the galaxy knew what had happened. 4 ancient civilizations had been wiped out in a single day by a species they had dismissed as weak and primitive. The galaxy would never be the same. Stone stood on his command bridge and looked out at the dead world that had once been Altair Prime. Somewhere in the dust that covered its surface were the atoms that had once been War Commander Zektar. The monster who had murdered children was now nothing but scattered particles, too small to see. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough to balance the scales for New Eden's children. But it was a beginning. "Sir," Captain Vasquez asked quietly, "what are our orders now?" Stone turned away from the view screen. "Now we go home. We've delivered our message. The galaxy will either learn from it or we'll have to deliver more lessons." The Terra fleet formed up and jumped back into dark space. Behind them, they left 17 dead solar systems and the wreckage of civilizations that had thought themselves untouchable. The ghosts of New Eden's children could rest a little easier now. Their deaths had been avenged. But Stone knew this was just the beginning. Humanity had tasted victory, and it was sweet as honey. They had learned that they could be more terrible than any monster in the galaxy when they chose to be. The aliens had wanted to teach humans about fear. Instead, they had taught them about power. The galaxy was about to learn the difference. The news of the 17 dead systems spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On 1,000 worlds, alien leaders stared at intelligence reports they couldn't believe. 4 entire civilizations gone, erased, as if they had never existed at all. High Chancellor Mordoon of the Galactic Council stood before the emergency session with trembling hands. He was 800 years old, from a species that had ruled space lanes when humans were still learning to make fire. He had seen wars that consumed star systems and plagues that wiped out whole species. But he had never seen anything like this. "Honored representatives," he began, his voice shaking like leaves in a storm. "We face an unprecedented crisis. In the span of 6 hours, the human species has committed the most extensive act of genocide in recorded galactic history." The council chamber held delegates from over 200 species. Most of them were trying not to panic. The Zephyrians had been one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. The Borthan Empire had controlled vital trade routes for 3,000 years. The crystalline Concordat had technology that other species could only dream about. All of them were dust now. Ambassador Krell Tara of the Mathari Republic stood up. Her species had been neutral in the conflict, watching from the sidelines as the great powers played their games. Now she spoke with barely controlled terror. "Chancellor, our long-range sensors confirm the reports. 17 star systems showing complete sterilization. No life signs, no technology signatures, no electromagnetic emissions. It's as if someone reached out and deleted them from the universe." "How is this possible?" demanded General Vexmore of the warrior clans. "Humans are a young species, primitive. Their largest ships couldn't match a single Zephyrian destroyer." High Chancellor Mordoon activated the holographic display in the center of the chamber. Images appeared showing the aftermath of the human attack. Dead worlds spinning in space, asteroid fields where once mighty space stations had been. The smooth, glassy surfaces of planets that had been crushed by impossible gravitational forces. "Our analysis suggests the humans have developed weapons based on quantum manipulation and gravitational control," Mordoon explained. "Technologies we believed were purely theoretical. They appear to have made advances in physics that our greatest scientists said were impossible." The chamber erupted in frightened voices. Representatives shouted questions in dozens of languages. How had humanity advanced so quickly? Where had they gotten such weapons? What did they want? But underneath the questions was a deeper, more terrifying realization. If humans could do this to the Zephyrians, they could do it to anyone. Admiral Thekmos of the Royal Fleet pounded his fist on the table. "This cannot stand. We must unite against this human threat before they destroy us all. They have shown their true nature. They are a species of genocidal monsters." "Are they?" asked a quiet voice from the back of the chamber. Everyone turned to look at the speaker. It was Ambassador Jerhai of the Peaceful Worlds, a small alliance of species that had never harmed anyone, never built weapons, never conquered other civilizations. They were philosophers and artists and healers. "Explain yourself, Ambassador," Mordoon said. Jerhai stood up slowly. He was very old, even by the standards of his long-lived species. His voice was soft, but everyone in the chamber strained to hear him. 2 years ago, the humans had 12 peaceful colonies, farmers and families, children playing in gardens. They never attacked anyone, never threatened anyone. They asked only to be left alone to build their homes and raise their young. The chamber was silent now. Everyone remembered New Eden. The Zephyrians declared these peaceful people a threat. Jerhai continued. They said human expansion had to be stopped. So they sent their fleets to a world full of farmers and murdered 50,000 innocents. They turned children into glass statues. They made art from the bodies of families. Ambassador Krell shifted uncomfortably. That was regrettable, but it doesn't justify genocide. Jerhai looked at her with ancient, sad eyes. Doesn't it? Tell me, honored representative, if someone came to your homeworld and turned your children into crystal sculptures, what would you do? If they celebrated the murder of your innocents as a holiday, how would you respond? The question hung in the air like poison gas. Every delegate in the chamber imagined their own children dying in purple fire. Imagined their families screaming as they turned to glass. Imagined alien monsters laughing about it afterward. The humans tried diplomacy first, Jerhai continued. They offered to negotiate. The Zephyrians responded by demanding that humanity abandon all their colonies and accept permanent imprisonment in their own star system. When that demand was refused, the aliens prepared to celebrate their massacre as a galactic holiday. General Vexmore growled low in his throat. What's your point, philosopher? My point is that the humans didn't start this war. They didn't attack civilians. They didn't murder innocents for sport. They waited 2 years. built their weapons, and then they struck back at the military forces and leaders responsible for the genocide of their people. They destroyed entire civilizations. Admiral Thekmos protested. Yes, Jerhai agreed sadly. They did. And now every species in the galaxy knows exactly what happens to civilizations that murder human children. The truth of his words settled over the chamber like a heavy blanket. The humans hadn't attacked random targets. They had systematically eliminated everyone who had participated in or celebrated the New Eden massacre. It was justice, not random violence. Terrible absolute justice. High Chancellor Mordoon called for order as arguments broke out across the chamber. Some delegates wanted to declare war on humanity immediately. Others wanted to offer surrender and beg for mercy. A few, like Jerhai, suggested that maybe the humans had done exactly what any reasonable species would do in their place. The debate was interrupted by an emergency communication from the Council's Intelligence Division. Chancellor, the voice was breathless with fear. We're detecting massive human fleet movements. 3,000 ships departing the dead systems and spreading out across the galaxy. Sir, they're heading for every world that sent congratulations after New Eden was destroyed. The blood drained from Mordoon's face. After the New Eden attack, dozens of alien worlds had sent messages to the Zephyrian hegemony. Congratulations on a job well done. Praise for stopping human expansion. Offers of support for future operations. Against the human plague, every government that had sent those messages was about to discover what human memory was. Like on the industrial world of Kepler 618, the Borthan Collective was holding an emergency meeting of their ruling council. 2 years ago, they had publicly praised the Zephyrian action at New Eden. They had called humans a rapidly spreading infection that needed to be contained. Now their deep space sensors were screaming warnings about an approaching human. Fleet Director Malseth stared at the tactical displays with growing horror. 50 human ships had dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of their system. They were moving toward Kepler 618 with steady, purposeful intent. Can our defenses stop them? He asked his military advisor. General Korun shook his head. Sir, if these are the same weapons that destroyed the Zephyrian fleet, our defenses might as well be soap bubbles. We need to evacuate the population immediately. Evacuate 8 billion people? With what ships? Where would they go? The questions had no good answers. The Borthan Collective had never imagined they would need to evacuate their entire civilization. They had been secure in their alliance with the great powers, confident that their military strength would protect them from any threat. They had been wrong. The human ships reached orbital range and stopped. For long minutes, nothing happened. The humans just waited, their black ships hanging in space like vultures. Then a transmission came through on all frequencies. The face that appeared on every screen was human, a woman with steel-gray hair and cold blue eyes. She wore the uniform of the Terra Fleet, with insignia that marked her as a fleet captain. I am Captain Sarah Martinez of the Terran vessel Righteous Fury, she announced. 2 years ago, your government sent a message to the Zephyrian hegemony. You congratulated them for the massacre at New Eden. You called the murder of our children necessary pest control. You offered your support for future genocidal actions against human civilians. Director Malzeth felt his legs go weak. He remembered that message. It had seemed like good politics at the time, supporting the regional powers, showing solidarity against the expanding human presence. Today, Captain Martinez continued, we have come to collect the debt you owe for those words. The transmission cut off. On the tactical displays, the human ships began to move again. But they didn't attack the planet directly. Instead, they spread out in a precise formation around Kepler 618's orbit. What are they doing? Malseth whispered. General Korun checked his instruments. His face went white with terror. Sir, they're not targeting our cities. They're targeting our sun. The weapons that fired from the human ships were unlike anything in known physics. Streams of exotic matter reached out from the fleet and touched the surface of Kepler 618's star. Where the streams hit, the star began to change. Its fusion processes accelerated. Its magnetic field fluctuated wildly. Solar flares erupted from its surface like the death screams of a god. Stellar destabilization in progress, reported the science officer. At this rate, the sun will go nova in approximately 6 hours. 8 billion Borthan citizens looked up at their sky and saw their sun flickering like a dying candle. They had maybe 6 hours to live and nowhere to run. Director Malseth tried to contact the human fleet. He begged for mercy, offered surrender, promised anything they wanted. The humans didn't respond. They had said everything they needed to say 2 years ago, when they praised child murder as good policy. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. On 37 different worlds, human fleets arrived to deliver justice to governments that had celebrated New Eden's destruction. Some tried to fight. Others tried to run. A few attempted to negotiate. None of it mattered. The humans had not come to conquer or negotiate. They had come to demonstrate a simple principle. Species that celebrated the murder of human children would cease to exist. The Kalahari Empire had sent a particularly enthusiastic message after New Eden, calling humans a cancer that must be excised from the galaxy. Their homeworld died when human ships used gravitational weapons to collapse its molten core. The planet imploded like a deflating balloon, taking 4 billion aliens with it. The Nexari Trade Federation had offered to help fund future operations against human colonies. Their 17 major worlds died simultaneously when human nanomachine swarms consumed every piece of technology on their surfaces. The Nexari were left stranded on dead rocks, watching their civilization crumble into dust. The Vorthak warrior clans had volunteered to provide troops for a ground invasion of Earth. Their entire fleet was turned against them when human cyber warfare specialists hacked their computer systems and made their own ships fire on their own worlds. In every case, the pattern was the same. The humans would arrive without warning, announce their intentions, and then deliver swift total destruction. No negotiations. No mercy, no survivors. The galaxy watched in growing terror as 37 civilizations died in a single week. But the humans weren't finished. On the artificial world of Nexus Prime, seat of the Galactic Banking Consortium, emergency meetings were being held in underground bunkers. The consortium controlled the galaxy's economy, managed trade between thousands of species, and had remained neutral in most conflicts. They had made one mistake. After New Eden, they had quietly moved their investments away from human space, betting that humanity would be crushed by the alien alliance. It had seemed like a sound financial decision. Now their long-range sensors detected a human fleet approaching Nexus Prime. Not a battle fleet, a single ship. One human vessel, traveling alone toward the most heavily defended world in the galaxy. Chairman Vexler of the Consortium tried to convince himself it was a coincidence. One ship couldn't threaten a world protected by orbital defense platforms, automated weapon systems, and the largest mercenary fleet in known space. The ship reached the edge of the Nexus system and stopped. A transmission came through on the emergency frequency. "This is Admiral Marcus Stone of the Terran Fleet," the message began. Chairman Vexlar recognized the name. Stone was the human who had destroyed 17 star systems in a single day. The Galactic Banking Consortium bet against humanity's survival, Stone continued. You moved your investments expecting us to be wiped out. You treated the genocide of our people as a business opportunity. Chairman Vexler felt sweat running down his back despite the bunker's climate control. Today you learn what happens when you bet against human survival. The human ship fired a single weapon. Not at Nexus Prime, not at the defense platforms, not at the mercenary fleet. The weapon reached out across space and touched the artificial world's central power core. Nexus Prime had been built around a contained singularity, a miniature black hole that provided unlimited energy. The human weapon did something to the containment field. The singularity began to grow. In minutes, Nexus Prime was gone. Not destroyed, consumed. The artificial world, its orbital defenses, its mercenary fleets, and its population of 50 billion souls were all pulled into an expanding black hole that grew until it swallowed the entire star system. The Galactic Banking Consortium ceased to exist. Their investments, their records, their carefully maintained economic networks, all vanished into a gravity well from which not even light could escape. The economic shockwaves rippled across the galaxy within hours. Trade routes that had existed for thousands of years simply stopped functioning. Currencies crashed. Entire species found themselves bankrupt overnight. But the message was clear. Even neutral parties who profited from human suffering would face consequences. Admiral Stone's ship departed the expanding black hole that had once been the galaxy's financial center. Behind him, space itself was twisted and torn by gravitational forces that would take millions of years to settle. The galaxy was learning that humanity didn't make distinctions between active enemies and passive accomplices. Everyone who had contributed to or benefited from the New Eden massacre would pay the same price. Total obliteration. On distant Earth, President Catherine Walsh stood before another emergency session of the world government. But this time the atmosphere was different. Gone were the grief and desperate planning of 2 years ago. The humans who filled the chamber now had the confidence of a species that had proven its strength to the galaxy. "The first phase of justice has been completed," Catherine announced. 54 alien civilizations that participated in or supported the New Eden massacre have been eliminated. Our fleets are now moving to Phase 2. Defense Minister Chen leaned forward. "What is Phase 2, Madam President?" Catherine's smile was sharp as winter stars. "Phase 2 is making sure this never happens again. We're going to visit every major alien civilization in the galaxy and deliver a simple message. The age of alien supremacy is over. From now on, humanity sets the rules." The chamber erupted in applause, not the desperate cheering of people hoping for victory, but the satisfied approval of people who had already won. Outside Earth's atmosphere, massive construction projects were visible even from the ground. New shipyards, new weapon platforms, new technologies that pushed the boundaries of physics itself. Humanity was not just winning the war. They were evolving into something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that could not be threatened, could not be conquered, and would never again allow their children to be murdered by monsters. The aliens had wanted to teach humanity about fear. Instead, they had taught them about power. Now it was humanity's turn to teach the galaxy about consequences. Admiral Marcus Stone stood on the shattered remains of Zephyria Prime's once great capital. The crystal spires that had reached toward the sky for 10,000 years were now melted slag cooling in the alien sun. The monuments to Zephyrian conquest were broken rubble. The palaces where emperors had ruled over hundreds of worlds were glass craters filled with radioactive dust. But Stone was not here to admire the destruction. He was here to send a message. Behind him, human engineers worked to install a massive holographic transmitter. When activated, it would broadcast Stone's words to every inhabited world in the galaxy. Over 3 million species would hear what he had to say. Every alien civilization would learn the new rules of galactic existence. Captain Elena Vasquez approached, her boots crunching on the crystallized ground that had once been a city square, where millions of Zephyrians had lived and worked and raised their families. She carried a datapad with the latest intelligence reports. "Admiral, the final counts are in," she reported. 54 enemy civilizations completely eliminated. No survivors, no refugees, no remnants. Total casualties estimated at 800 billion aliens. Stone nodded. 800 billion lives. Before New Eden, that number would have horrified him. Now it felt like simple mathematics. They had killed 50,000 human civilians. Humanity had responded proportionally. 16,000 alien lives for every human child murdered. "What about the neutral species?" Stone asked. "Panic across the board," Vasquez replied. "The Galactic Council has collapsed. Most member species have withdrawn to their home systems and are refusing all contact with outsiders. Trade has dropped by 90%. Several civilizations are offering tribute to Earth, begging us not to attack them." Stone smiled coldly. Fear was a useful tool, but fear alone would not prevent future atrocities. The galaxy needed to understand that humanity was now the dominant power, and that human rules would be enforced absolutely. "Any word from our diplomats?" he asked. "Yes, sir. Ambassador Park reports that representatives from over 200 species have requested audiences with President Walsh. They all want to formally acknowledge human superiority and ask for protection." Stone was not surprised. In the space of 3 years, humanity had gone from being dismissed as primitive weaklings to being the most feared species in the galaxy. The transformation was complete. The holographic transmitter came online with a soft hum. Technical Sergeant Rodriguez gave Stone a thumbs-up signal. The device was ready to broadcast to every corner of known space. Stone stepped up to the transmitter and looked directly into the recording sensors. When he spoke, his words would be heard on millions of worlds by trillions of alien beings. "I am Admiral Marcus Stone of the Terran Fleet," he began. His voice was calm and steady, carrying the authority of a species that had proven its absolute power. "I speak to you from the ruins of Zephyria Prime, capital of the empire that murdered 50,000 human civilians 3 years ago. Around the galaxy, Aliens stopped what they were doing to listen. In underground bunkers, in space stations, in hidden colonies on remote worlds, alien leaders gathered around communication devices to hear humanity's final judgment. For too long, Stone continued, this galaxy has been ruled by species who believed that might makes right. Civilizations that thought their age and technology gave them the right to determine which younger species could survive and which should be eliminated. They saw humanity's expansion as a threat to their dominance, so they chose genocide as their solution. Stone gestured to the melted ruins around him. This is the result of that choice. Not one stone stands upon another in any Zephyrian city. Not one Zephyrian ship remains functional anywhere in the galaxy. Their species, their culture, their very existence has been erased as completely as they tried to erase ours. The transmission was being received and retransmitted across thousands of star systems. On the homeworld of the Altarian Confederacy, President Melthor watched the broadcast with growing terror. His species had been neutral during the war, but they had privately approved of the Zephyrian actions. Stone's cold eyes seemed to look directly at him through the hologram. The age of alien supremacy is over, Stone declared. From this day forward, humanity will set the rules for galactic civilization. These rules are simple and absolute. Stone held up one finger. First, any species that attacks human civilians or colonies will be completely eliminated. Not defeated, eliminated. Every member of their species, every world they control, every ship in their fleet, every trace of their existence will be wiped from the galaxy. A second finger. Second, any species that supports, encourages, or profits from attacks on human civilians will share the fate of the attackers. Neutrality will not protect you if you celebrate our suffering or bet on our destruction. A third finger. Third, humanity will expand wherever we choose to expand. Any species that attempts to limit human colonization or claims exclusive rights to regions of space will be eliminated. A fourth finger. Fourth, all species will immediately cease military actions against other species. The galaxy has had enough of war and conquest. Conflicts between non-human species will be resolved through arbitration by human authorities. The fifth and final finger. Fifth, any species that wishes to survive the coming age will formally acknowledge human authority and accept our protection. Those who refuse will be considered potential threats and dealt with accordingly. Stone lowered his hand and stepped closer to the transmitter. I know what you are thinking, he said, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. You are thinking that humanity has become the very thing we fought against. You are thinking that we have become conquerors and tyrants no better than the Zephyrians. Stone's smile was sharp as a blade. You are correct. We have become exactly what this galaxy forced us to become. The difference is that we learned to be monsters from the best teachers. You. Around the galaxy, alien leaders felt ice in their veins. The humans weren't even pretending to be the good guys anymore. They had embraced their role as galactic overlords with cold efficiency. But unlike the previous rulers of this galaxy, Stone continued, humanity offers something new. Peace. Not the peace of the grave, but the peace of absolute order. Under human rule, there will be no more genocides. No more species wiped out for the crime of expansion. No more children murdered to teach political lessons. Stone gestured again to the ruins around him. This destruction ends now. The last act of galactic warfare has been completed. From this point forward, violence will be a human monopoly, used only to enforce peace and protect the innocent. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, alien civilizations faced the most important decision in their species' history: submit to human rule or face the fate of the Zephyrians. Most chose submission. Within 6 months, over 90% of known alien civilizations had formally acknowledged human authority. They sent tribute to Earth, accepted human observers on their worlds, and agreed to follow human laws regarding interspecies relations. The few who refused soon learned why their neighbors had been wiser. The Cytherian Empire had been one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy. Their species had been building cities when humanity was still living in caves. They had survived the rise and fall of dozens of galactic powers over millions of years. They refused to bow to upstart humans. Their extinction took exactly 47 minutes. The Drakmor clans were warrior species who had never submitted to anyone in their 10,000-year history. They declared that they would die fighting before accepting human rule. Humanity obliged them. The Drakmor got their wish. They died fighting. All of them. Their final battle lasted 3 hours and ended with every Drakmor world reduced to lifeless rock. The ethereal collective tried to hide in dimensions beyond normal space, believing their advanced technology would protect them from human detection. They discovered that humanity had learned to hunt prey that existed outside normal reality. The collective's hidden worlds were dragged back into normal space and systematically destroyed. Each extinction was broadcast live across the galaxy. Alien species watched their neighbors vanish forever and understood the lesson. Resistance was not just futile, it was species suicide. President Catherine Walsh stood before a joint session of Earth's government, addressing the leaders of humanity's transformed civilization. Behind her hung a new flag, the blue and green stripes of Earth, but now surrounded by silver stars representing every world that had submitted to human authority. 3,000 silver stars. 3,000 species that now followed human law. The galaxy is at peace, Catherine announced to thunderous applause. For the first time in recorded history, there are no ongoing wars between major civilizations. No species is committing genocide. No worlds are being conquered by force. The applause continued for several minutes. When it finally died down, Catherine continued with the real news. Our colonial expansion program has been accelerated. In the past year, we have established new colonies on 500 worlds. These colonies are no longer hidden settlements hoping to avoid alien attention. They are fortress worlds, protected by the most powerful fleet in galactic history. She activated a holographic display showing human expansion across the galaxy. Green dots marked human colonies now scattered across thousands of star systems. Each dot was protected by orbital defense platforms that could crack planets, and fleets that could sterilize entire species. Our population has grown from 12 billion to over 50 billion in the past 3 years, Catherine continued. Human families are moving to new worlds every day, building homes and schools and gardens where their children can play without fear. The chamber erupted in cheers again. The dream of New Eden had been reborn on a galactic scale. Human children played in gardens on distant worlds, protected by the knowledge that anyone who threatened them would face immediate annihilation. But our greatest achievement, Catherine said as the applause died down, is the establishment of the new galactic order. Under human leadership, the galaxy has entered an age of unprecedented peace and prosperity. She was right. With warfare banned and resources directed toward peaceful development instead of military building, alien civilizations were experiencing growth and advancement they had never known. Art, science, philosophy, and culture were flourishing on worlds that had spent centuries preparing for war. Of course, this golden age came with a price. Human observers monitored every major alien world. Human laws governed interspecies relations. Human fleets patrolled every star system, ready to enforce peace with overwhelming force. But most aliens had decided the price was worth paying. Better to live under human rule than to die under human guns. Admiral Stone returned to Earth 6 months later, his mission of galactic conquest complete. He stood once again in the cemetery where the New Eden Memorial had been built. 50,000 crystal pillars rose from the green grass, each one inscribed with the name of a colonist who had died in purple fire. The memorial was different now. What had once been a place of grief had become a shrine to human power. Alien ambassadors came here daily to lay tribute at the feet of the crystal pillars. They brought gifts from their homeworlds, precious metals, advanced technologies, works of art created specifically to honor the human dead. Stone knelt beside one pillar in particular. The name carved into its surface read, Jennifer Martinez, age 8. She had been Captain Martinez's daughter, one of 15,000 children murdered on New Eden. Stone had kept her picture in his command cabin throughout the war, a reminder of why he was fighting. "We kept our promise, Jenny," he whispered to the crystal. "Every monster who hurt you paid the price. The galaxy is safe for human children now." Behind him, he heard footsteps on the gravel path. Stone turned to see President Walsh approaching, accompanied by a group of alien ambassadors. The aliens kept their distance from the memorial pillars, their faces showing the proper mixture of respect and fear. "Admiral," Catherine greeted him, "I have something you need to see." She handed him a data pad containing the latest census reports from across human space. Stone read the numbers with growing satisfaction. Human Population, 127 billion souls spread across 1847 worlds. Colonial development, $15,000. New settlements established in the past year. Alien tribute received. Enough resources to fund human expansion for the next century. Military strength, $50,000. Active warships with production capacity for 10,000 more per year. Galactic compliance. Rate, 99.7% of all known species now under human authority. Remarkable progress, Stone commented. What about the remaining non-compliant species? 3 civilizations are still holding out, Catherine replied. The Infinite Collective claims their machine intelligence is too advanced to be ruled by biological beings. The Phantom Empire believes their cloaking technology makes them undetectable, and the Star Shepherds think their nomadic lifestyle puts them beyond our reach. Stone handed the datapad back to her. Schedule elimination operations for all 3. By the end of this year, I want 100% compliance. Consider it done, Catherine agreed. But there's something else. The Galactic Historical Society has requested permission to document the war for their archives. They want to create a permanent record of humanity's rise to power. Stone considered this. History was written by the victors, and it was important that the galaxy's children understood why the current order existed. Approved, he decided. But make sure they include everything. The massacre at New Eden, the celebrations of our dead children, the refusal to negotiate. Let future generations understand exactly why 54 civilizations had to be eliminated. One of the alien ambassadors, an insect-like being from the hive world's remnants, stepped forward nervously. Honored Admiral, the creature's voice was translated by its mechanical interpreter. My surviving people wish to contribute to the New Eden Memorial. We offer our most sacred crystals as an expression of our eternal regret for our leaders' past actions. Stone looked at the alien with cold eyes. The hive worlds had been one of the civilizations that celebrated New Eden's destruction. Their homeworlds were glass now, their queens dead, their species reduced to a few million survivors scattered across refugee camps on human-controlled worlds. Your regret is noted, Stone replied. Your tribute will be accepted. But remember, your species exists only because humanity chooses to allow it. That choice can be changed at any time. The ambassador bowed low, its insect legs trembling. We understand completely, Honored Admiral. Our children are taught daily about human mercy and the price of rebellion against your just rule. Stone nodded approvingly. This was how it should be. Alien children growing up with proper respect for human authority, learning that their species' survival depended on pleasing their human masters. As the group moved away from the memorial, Catherine walked beside Stone, her expression thoughtful. Do you ever wonder what we've become, Marcus? She asked quietly. 3 years ago we were explorers and farmers. Now we're the galactic overlords ruling through fear and absolute power. Stone was quiet for a long moment considering her question. When he spoke, his voice carried no doubt or regret. We became what we needed to become, Catherine. The galaxy is full of species that see kindness as weakness and peace as an invitation to violence. They understand only strength. So we became stronger than all of them combined. And if that strength corrupts us? If we become the monsters we fought against? Stone stopped walking and turned to face her. Look around you, Catherine. Look at what we've built. He gestured toward the bustling human city visible beyond the memorial grounds. Children played in parks while their parents worked in offices and laboratories. Artists created beautiful works celebrating human achievement. Scientists pushed the boundaries of knowledge, developing new technologies to improve life for humanity's growing population. This is not the work of monsters, Stone continued. Yes, we rule through fear. Yes, we destroy anyone who threatens us. But we also protect the innocent, prevent genocide, and enforce peace across 3 million worlds. Catherine followed his gaze to a group of human children playing near the memorial's edge. They were laughing and running without a care in the world, safe in the knowledge that the most powerful military force in the galaxy existed solely to protect them. The Zephyrians ruled through fear too, she pointed out. They claimed to be bringing order to the galaxy. The difference, Stone replied, is that the Zephyrians murdered children to maintain their power. We murder child killers to maintain ours. That distinction matters. As if to emphasize his point, one of the playing children, a little girl with dark hair and bright eyes, ran up to them. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old. Admiral Stone, she called out excitedly. My teacher says you're the one who keeps us safe from the bad aliens. Stone knelt down to meet her at eye level. His expression softened in a way it rarely did anymore. That's right, little one, he said gently. My job is to make sure that bad things never happen to good people like you. The girl beamed at him. Thank you. My mommy says that because of you, I never have to be scared of monsters. Your mommy is right, Stone assured her. The monsters are all gone now, and if any new ones ever appear, we'll make them go away too. The child hugged him briefly before running back to her friends. Stone watched her go, remembering another little girl whose name was carved in crystal nearby. Jennifer Martinez would never get to play in parks or hug admirals or grow up to have children of her own. But because of what happened to Jennifer, this child could play without fear. Because 54 civilizations had died, billions of other children could live in peace. I think I can live with being the monster that protects children, Stone said finally, even if it means ruling a galaxy through fear. Catherine nodded slowly. She had wrestled with the same moral questions and reached the same conclusion. Humanity had traded its innocence for its children's safety. It was a bargain worth making. The Alien Historical Society wants to interview you for their archives, she mentioned. They want to record your personal account of the war for future generations. What specifically do they want to know? Everything. How we developed our weapons so quickly. Why we chose total elimination over conquest. What message we want to send to future species who might challenge human authority. Stone smiled coldly. Schedule the interview. I have quite a lot to say to future generations of aliens. 2 days later, Stone sat in a secure recording studio, facing a panel of alien historians from various species. They were all survivors of civilizations that had submitted to human rule early enough to avoid destruction. Their questions were careful and respectful. They knew that one wrong word could result in their species joining the Zephyrians in extinction. The lead historian, a reptilian being from the Scolari Union, began the interview. Admiral Stone, for the historical record, could you explain how humanity developed such advanced weaponry in such a short time? Stone leaned back in his chair, his expression calm and confident. The technology existed before New Eden, he explained. We had been researching quantum manipulation and gravitational weapons for decades. But we had never weaponized the research because we believed in peaceful exploration and coexistence. What changed after New Eden? Everything, Stone replied simply. Before New Eden, humanity believed that other species were fundamentally like us, capable of reason, interested in mutual benefit, opposed to harming innocents. The massacre taught us that we were wrong. Another historian, this one from the Aquatic Deepwater Federation, raised a tentacle. But surely some alien species could have been negotiated with. Why was total elimination necessary? Stone's eyes hardened. Because every species that was eliminated had a choice. They could have condemned the New Eden massacre. They could have refused to support genocide. They could have remained truly neutral. Instead, they chose to celebrate the murder of our children. But what about civilian populations? Surely not every individual alien supported the attack. An excellent question, Stone acknowledged. Let me answer it with another question. When human civilians were being turned into glass sculptures, did any of these alien civilizations protest? Did they demand that their governments condemn the atrocity? Did they hold demonstrations calling for justice for the murdered children? The historians were silent. They all knew the answer. No, Stone continued. They cheered. They celebrated. They called it necessary pest control. So when the time came for justice, we treated them all as complicit, because they were. A third historian from the crystal-based mineral consciousness asked the question that really mattered. What message do you want to send to any future species that might consider challenging human authority? Stone looked directly into the recording device. Future generations of aliens would watch this interview and learn from it. His words would shape their understanding of humanity for centuries to come. The message is simple, he said. Humanity is not the species we were before New Eden. We are something new, something harder, something that has learned to hate efficiently and strike without mercy when our children are threatened. He paused, letting that sink in. We do not want to rule the galaxy through fear. We do not enjoy being the force that other species must obey or die. But we have accepted that role because the alternative is allowing monsters to hurt innocents. Stone stood up, his full authority filling the room. So my message to future species is this. We will expand wherever we choose. We will colonize whatever worlds we want. We will raise our children on any planet that suits us. And if anyone tries to stop us or hurt our families, they will discover what 54 civilizations learned too late. Which is? The lead historian asked, though he probably already knew the answer. Stone's smile was cold as the void between stars. That there is no force in the universe more terrible than humans with nothing left to lose. And thanks to New Eden, we learned that we always have something left to lose. Our children, our future, our hope for something better. He sat back down, his message delivered. The galaxy wanted to teach us about fear, he concluded. Instead, they taught us about power. Now every alien child grows up knowing that human children are not to be harmed. Not now, not ever. That knowledge will keep the peace for 1,000 generations. The interview ended. The historians filed out quietly, their recording devices full of humanity's final judgment on the old galactic order. Stone remained in the studio for a few minutes after they left, thinking about the galaxy he had helped create. It was not the galaxy anyone had planned, not the peaceful community of species that idealistic humans had dreamed of, not the alien-dominated hierarchy that the Zephyrians had tried to maintain. Instead, it was something new. A galaxy where one species held absolute power and used it to enforce absolute peace, where children of every race could grow up safely, protected by the knowledge that violence would bring swift and total retribution. It was not perfect, but it was just, and after New Eden, justice was all that mattered. Stone left the studio and walked out into the afternoon sunlight. Above him, human ships patrolled the skies of Earth, ready to defend humanity's homeworld against any threat. Around the planet, massive space stations bristled with weapons that could sterilize star systems. Throughout the galaxy, human colonies spread like seeds, taking root in friendly soil. The age of alien supremacy was over. The age of human dominance had begun. And in crystal pillars scattered across 1,000 memorial worlds, the names of New Eden's children were carved in stone and metal and light. Eternal reminders of the price of crossing humanity. They had been farmers and teachers and dreamers. They had wanted only to build homes and raise families and live in peace. Instead, they had become the martyrs who transformed their species from gardeners into gods of war. The galaxy would remember their names forever, and it would never again mistake human kindness for human weakness. In the end, that was the greatest victory of all.